Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a very special edition and to FS Online. And today we'll be talking politicals because we're talking political issues. We're talking to political parties because we're heading for elections. And we all know how FS Online is based here in the Free State in Bloemfontein, and we're coming to you live from our brand new studios. Hey, we are growing. And the station, it started off during COVID. And today the station is doing quite well. I'm intimidated by my team today because FS Online, it used to be one cameraman, two sound, but today, hey, look at us. It shows how there's growth. This is part and parcel of what we call what? Growth. And like we all know, on the 29th of May, we'll be going to the polls to vote for that political party that we believe it's going to actually pave the way for us in terms of what we can expect in the next coming, 5 years? Because that's the term in South Africa. Because you know, before 1994, South Africa was under oppression, if I may call it that way, that we all know as apartheid. And some of us, we might not know because, hey, but before I go further, I want to read something and excuse my phone. I did a little link in as part and parcel of democracy. There's a song that actually describes democracy, and it goes something like this. I know he is leaving me for you. Who said that? That's the question. And who told you? That is true. What is he telling you? Question mark. Could be the same thing that he told me. And the lady asked. And the other party, he told me that he loved me. I heard that, and he told me that I was beautiful. And how do you know? That's the question. How do you know? Because I played the same scene before. And this is the retake of my life. I was a star for many nights. Now the roles have changed, and you are the leading lady in his lights. Very lights, cameras, now you are on. Just remember that you've been warned. Enjoy it now, because it won't last. It's the same script, but different cast. The reason why I'm actually starting the show with that is because we are 30 years into democracy, and we've seen new political parties rising. We've seen the ANC still being in power since 1994 till current. And you know, everybody's talking about who they're going to vote for. We saw in 1994, when you looked at the ballot paper, there were about close to 15 political parties, if I'm still correct. And today, I don't know how many political parties we have. Back then, we had 2 ballot papers. Today, we have 3 ballot papers, including independent candidates. And that's the nicest thing about democracy. We've been asking ourselves, because we see with other countries, you get to have independent candidates participating into the elections. South Africa has actually stepped into that game. Independent candidates are out there campaigning. Some of them, how are they doing it? Who's funding them? Because elections, they cost an arm and a leg. And it's not a child's play. And now you know, okay, once you vote, that political party, let's do an example with the ANC. The ANC in 1994 participated with the likes of the National Party that used to be in governance back then, and other political parties, and the ANC won. So the ANC has been in government in terms of running the orders to the country and all that. And now 30 years down the line, with them being in power, we've seen different parties, presidents coming through and doing other things. Now we're coming to 2004 on the 29th of May, whereby we'll be voting for another 30 years. It's the new dawn. Because we know South Africa, now when I analyze South Africa at its growing stage, I saw it became a teenager up until 2008 when there was a transition. It was halfway through. And we started experiencing, teenage problems, a little bit of reckless there, a little bit of argument there. And today we are a fully grown adult into democracy. Kids that were born in 1994, we get to see them. They're starting to do beautiful things. Others are complaining they haven't seen opportunities. And it's through challenges that we've been seeing that we started seeing mushrooming of other political parties that are promising better change for other people. Also, let's bear in mind, South Africa in 1994 had a certain number of population. I forgot the number now, but I know South African population has grown with more than 17 million. We saw people from other countries coming into the state, coming into South Africa, seeking opportunities because they said there are better opportunities in South Africa because of the democracy that we have. So now I tend to believe, having been living in South Africa for me, in this new democracy, it has been good and it has been bad too. On the good side for me, that I've got to experience as a young black person, there's opportunities that I've got to have access to. But still, there's been challenges that I've also encountered. I can list them also. But there seems to be issues that are not being tackled. And I don't know how political parties are going to come through. One of the issues that I can put on the table is the economic division amongst us, especially within the white and the blacks, and also in terms of poverty and racial division. These are topics that we never touch on. But we'll get to hear how most of the political parties will get to actually speak about them. And I want to tell you, we've got 3 gentlemen. I don't know why I don't have a lady, but hey, politics are for men, I guess. But there's also women, don't forget. On my far right, we will be talking to a gentleman from Rise Mzansi. I'll get to introduce them in the second half. And then we've got a gentleman from UDM and ANC, the African National Congress. And if I can give you a quick background, Rise Mzansi, it's a year old. It's a new, I call them a new kid on the block. You know, I've heard their manifestos. They will be telling you about their manifestos and their plans. They serve as a different purpose from what I'm seeing. And when you Google them, and you Google Rise Mzansi, this is the first line that pops up. Join Rise Mzansi as we build the safe, prosperous, equal, and united South Africa we deserve in one generation. Hey, we'll get to hear why they say that. And then when you come to UDM, the UDM, which is the United Democratic Movement, is a center-left social democratic South African political party, formed by a prominent national party leader, which was Ntate Rudolph Meyer, Ntate Bantu Holomisa, and John Taylor. And that's what also pops up. It was formed in 1997 on the 27th of September, which makes it 27 years old into democracy also. And then we come to the African National Congress that we all know. I call them our forefathers. Born in 1912 on the 8th of January. And we all know that the African National Congress was formed here in Mangaung. Funny enough, we are here in Mangaung. And when you Google the African National Congress, this is what you get, is the political party in South Africa. It originated in the liberation movement known for opposition to the apartheid and has governed the country since 1994, when the first post-apartheid election resulted in Nelson Mandela being president. And when we come back from this break, I'm going to be getting into the reason why we are here today. And now I've got only one question. Why should we vote for you, and what's in it for me? I speak on those people that cannot speak on their behalf, and we need to show them in terms of why it's the reason why they'll be voting and who they're going to be voting for and that purpose. So ladies and gentlemen, without wasting any time, let me take a quick break and I'll be back. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to FS Online, a special edition. We're talking the road to elections. We're talking why you should go and vote, why it's important, and who you're going to vote for. And like I said in the first segment, we've got gentlemen from different political parties with me today. And we are also joined by the Forum for Service Delivery. And I'll be introducing most of my guests. And like I said in the beginning, on my far right, we've got Ntate Motlatla from Rise Mzansi. Welcome, sir. And then on my second far right, we've got Ntate Busiso Molake from UDM.
Thank you.
And then we've got Ntate Potso Mototo from Forum for Service Delivery. Welcome, Tate. And then we've got Ntate Piwe Mate from the African National Congress, which is the ANC. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
So, gentlemen, I'm not going to be harsh. I don't have any prepared questions. We're going to have a conversation in terms of one thing. And I'm going to start from the far left, coming like this. And in just 2 minutes, I'm going to give you 2 minutes for you to give me a quick background in terms of what is Rise Mzansi, what do you stand for, and in terms of key highlights from your manifestos, why should people actually pay attention to Rise Mzansi?
Thank you very much, sir. Rise Mzansi, it stands for, as you said earlier, equal. Okay. It stands for safe, prosperous, equal, and united South Africa for all, meaning that we have looked into the situation that is prevailing in the country, and out of that, the need was identified, which emanate to the launch of Rise Mzansi. Rise Mzansi, it believes, if you follow the history of it, I mean, we are only just a year old. We are celebrating our birth on the 19th of April this month. But if you look at how it came about, you realize that it was effort that more or less the same like what it happened in the past, going to community, ask the community what are the needs of the community, and then from that build a document which will be a Bible for Rise Mzansi that they would be using, which we call it a manifesto as of now. So yes, Rise Mzansi, it's informed by what the community has mandated them to say. If we vote for you, these are the things that should be of priorities. I'm not sure if should I go to the manifesto itself.
Yeah.
One of our key elements, which is very first one, that we talk about leadership. Remember, South Africa, even the constitution, it's been said that, and we believe that it is like that it's one of the most progressive constitution that you can ever get in the whole world. But when you look at what is happening within the country, then there are challenges that we have asked ourselves, what is it that it's causing that? Then Rise Mzansi says we need new leadership. We don't have to change any policies. We are content with the constitution of the country. But the new leadership, why the new leadership? It's because if we keep on rehabilitating the leaders that are not delivering, you'd end up where we are today. But new leadership, it's the key things for Rise Mzansi. We have given them 30 years to try to change, 30 years to bring the changes in the country, 30 years to try to address the things that they have promised us to address. But we realize that the problem, it's not it's not about the policies, but the problem is about the leadership. So we need new leadership. We said that leadership has to have a direct impact on the governance. If the system of the government are not in place, presently South Africa, if you look at its political setup, we depend on the faith of political organization that they will deliver, such that systems that have been put in place for accountability are not being exploited. So we said new leadership will see to it that the governance aspect of the system is there to ensure that everything it's implemented accordingly, and also the implementation part. That's just one priority that one could highlight of. Another thing is keeping people safe. South Africa, we are, I'm not sure, I don't know, we are such a lawless country presently, and the question is why? Why are we in this state? Is it because we don't have rule of law that governs us? It's not that.
I'm gonna come into those key elements and actually give you a chance to actually highlight on them. Ne?
Okay.
So in this situation, like I said, I'm gonna give you guys 2 to 3 minutes each to actually break down. So once we get into the crux of the debates, we'll actually get into those. So I'm gonna jump over to UDM.
Okay.
And the same thing. Why should we vote for UDM, and who's UDM, and what's your key point in terms of your manifesto?
Rona UDM ke batho stata ka manifesto ya rona. Really, corruption destroy our freedom. And then indeed, the reason why the President Bantu Olomisa has started the organization in the United Democratic Movement, we are the first person reborn corruption in a high starter. Is this why Iena achieved a Muhatwa High Obizwa United Democratic Movement? So over 30 years, still the same. There's nothing that's changed in our leaders. I couldn't take change was one. If Udula fast Libon, the state to Rensanona must go down, they go up. Yeah, increase. Corruption was increase, but Bodo increase no. And then Ausheva Ronajali effect Talibanabas Kolo in this city. In 20 enali company bizo neriko ya affectera bana hulu. That's what fumana na gwemwe bana babangata babanyana bayitegisa khobani chelete yana bayifumana bakere chelete yewe sanore bayifumani le modulo bodulo ba sanore badule bona bayikrei abayifumani company ena neriko yena ki company iyezwe ka murello wa bubudu yabobeli ki budulo yabo raro ki safety. South Africa arena safety. And then how sheva all mabandido na jwale bana ba utswa benke kapadikoloi ki batho ba studyile. And then how sheva rona batho bana bana le kore ba itse bantu bona ba yetsa o fumana ya hore government ira masole ha ba qeto ira masole ba bana ya for let's say for 10 years baba tloela hape baba inza baba kenya ba bang. So masole bala ba bereke ba start to yeda corruption ba utso. Why government a khona hore okay sharp you it's like rona ba Bantu Olomisa UDM re after Rinkapus safety of South Africa is on the first priority. Regular democracy South Africa bana ba democracy. They doesn't feel themselves their own country. If it lean agi feel, or not like some American to America sama kiasa. If it luna, there's no one that will say I am safe. Are safe? Is there so to labana the bodyguard because are safe?
Oh, that's why I done the bodyguard.
Because are safe.
Okay.
Mara mpa house every country are how safe. I know about the bodyguard. What about the lafoi?
I want to go to the mic.
Oh, okay. Kijuazi kerege. Askis, ke a leboha. O ba don la hlata ulo ya, o fa da ke swane le koloi, ha ke batle o fana ke no zwa line ha le mente. Okay. So
Ki tlo tshwara hanyane because o mentionile corruption, safety and accommodation as part of your manifesto that you're focusing on. Ki tlo tla mo wena ka bona o futhuma. Wa bona? Mare ke ne ke re fela re fane ka chance ke tle ka ntho ka ntate potso. F for King Forum for Service Delivery. Ki qala ho lutla. Okay. Ke batla o njwetse hore wena what is Forum for Service Delivery stands for and your manifesto.
Thank you so much. Forum for Service Delivery, it's a community. It was started as a civic movement.
Okay.
And along the way, because as civic movements, when we start, we'll have issues that we are championing. We'll have issues that we want to change. Ours was service delivery, and still, even now, our agenda is on service delivery.
Okay.
That's why even our name says it all, that we are about service delivery. So the reason why we had to be established as a forum for service delivery is to make sure that our people get service delivery. We wanted to do away with these things of shutdown and the stuff. So now we're going to approach another way of getting things to change,
Okay.
which is we're going to challenge political powers. That's why we're going to have representations in the legislature and in parliament. So we want to do away with protest. We want to protest via the ballot papers.
Okay.
But now this organization started in Northwest, but also grows to 7 provinces as we speak that are going to contest in these coming elections.
Do you guys have a leader?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
We do have Dr. 𝐏𝐻𝐋𝐈𝐓𝐈𝐂𝐀𝐋, graduated, not just being called doctor, but graduated.
Okay.
Dr. 𝐏𝐻𝐋𝐈𝐓𝐈𝐂𝐀𝐋, a well-educated leader and a visionary, and he's also advocate. He studied law as well. So he's leading this organization. We have about 37 councillors at the current moment, and a couple of MPEC chairpersons and MMCs in different municipalities. Majority of them are in Northwest because that's where the organization
That's where it started.
Yeah, but the main purpose of establishing this organization was to make sure that people are going to get services.
How
Because
old is
it
this
was a
organization?
problem all around the country.
And how old is it?
Yeah, from 2016 to date, we about 7 years.
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
And why people should vote for us is we've been around for some time. We know what we mean when we say service delivery. What are the challenges? What are the things that are causing service delivery to collapse? And we also know what could be done in order to can address or make sure we arrest the situation that people can get effective service delivery. And when we say so, we're going to fight poverty is one of the problems. Ours is to fight corruption, and ours is to fight nepotism. Those are the 3 enemies of Forum for Service Delivery. Poverty, people if are not working, they're going to commit crime and other things. So, and they're not going to be able to pay municipal services, rates and taxes and so on. They're not gonna take care of their families and the staff and all that. So, we try to push on our policies to make sure that there's no household that people are going to go on bed hungry anymore. And at least one per household, at least one person to be employed.
Employment.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's how we're going to fight the poverty. And we're going to open these factories and in government, we know our government is understaffed.
Okay.
I'm talking from experience here. You can.
Are tshware net fela da ke atla, ke atla. And we come to Ntate Mati, the African National Congress. You've been in government for 30 years, and you've governed for 30 years. And today we're going to the polls. The floor is yours.
No, thanks, Deborah. Let's just quickly reflect on this journey of 30 years. in this journey of 30 years, one of the key things that the African National Congress first did was to ensure that we have a constitutional democracy that we have here today. The multiplicity of political parties that you see here today is a byproduct of what the African National Congress conceptualized. And a very strong culture of human rights, freedom of expression, freedom of association with whichever political organization that you want to associate with. Today we're here, we have a free press, we have booming media enterprise that is not regulated, unlike in other countries. South Africa is quite open, The second most important thing was the process of nation building, building unity and ensuring that there's peace and stability. From 1994, the period, the 2 years between 1994 up to 1996 were a very volatile period that had threatened the country into civil war. Many had not predicted that this country under the African National Congress would be where it is today. Many did not think that white people would even still be existing. The president was making a joke yesterday when he signed the NHI bill, and he's saying that the same fears that were there in 1994 are the same fears we're having about the NHI bill. People were worried about what kind of a country we're going to have, and we've turned out pretty well, even though we've had our own niggling issues. I think you spoke very well about how in the process of the 30 years, we went through a teenage stage where there were certain events that we really needed to reflect on, and we came back and we built on. The third one was obviously bringing services to all and meeting the basic needs. You would know that there was a huge problem of people having basic services in this country, especially in our townships and rural areas. And people who were predominantly affected were your blacks, your youth, people with disability, and more especially women. So the ANC had a very progressive program, and it's continuing with that program of ensuring that it rolls out basic services to our people. You would know that our country was quite racially stratified. We had a grant system that was uneven. Black people were not benefiting with certain grants, white people were benefiting. There's certain infrastructure that were built in white areas, but when you went to townships and rural areas, there was no such infrastructure. So we sought to bridge the gap in that regard. One of the key things was economic transformation, and I'm getting to the fourth one here, just to reflect on the 30 years. You look at the patterns of ownership in the economy in South Africa, across sectors, between 1994 up until now in the 30 years. The picture in some sectors has changed completely. In some sectors, the picture is different, but we are not where we want to be, and that is where we're working on. And I'm talking about sectors such as the marine economy, which is where we are moving into, highly specialized sectors. But when you look at other sectors such as media, for example, you look at sectors such as the public service, professions such as accountancy, you look at the legal profession, you would realize that there's been a significant amount of transformation that has happened there. You go to academia, you look at the amount of black professionals that are being produced in this country, your chartered accountants. So you can see that there's been transformation. You look at the amount of businesses that have been founded that are led by black people. You will see that the picture is completely different from what it was pre-94 and in the early stages of democracy. So the journey of 30 years has really been a journey that we can reflect on as a country. And then the last one, also a very important one, in terms of our education system, rolling out a single curriculum, trying to meet the needs of infrastructure, expanding education into rural areas and even to townships, and even building education infrastructure, which has been a project that we're consistently still working on towards the African National Congress. So our journey of 30 years has not been something that's not existent. The reality of the matter is that there's a lot that has been done in this country under the African National Congress. So it's not to say nothing has been done by this government. A lot has been done by this government. And to date, moving away from our journey, I was just taking you down memory lane just to remind everybody.
And I'm gonna cut you. I'm gonna cut you because I'm gonna give you an opportunity to actually reflect on that, due to the fact that you've been in government for the longest, and our colleagues, some are still new, and I'm gonna give each and everyone an ample opportunity to actually touch on it. But I want to come to issue that was raised by Ntateko UDM. I'm gonna refer to you, gentlemen, as with your political parties. Ne? so that I don't. UDM, you mentioned issue of corruption, and it's something that most people in our country are complaining about. You know, we read stories, we hear stories, and you, when you come in as UDM and you take over, we're going to focus on the Free State, and you come and say, now we are in power as UDM, how are you going to change the corruption that you are actually raising right now?
Okay, thank you. Ke a leboha. Re ta chincha. Re ta choose the lawyer, le mapolisa, the judge, sorry. Re ta choose the judge. Bado bragana lead corruption fela. And re ta choose mapolisa. Bado Spani abone etla ba bragana le corruption fela. Why I say so? Yes, Renalima police investigations, it is not enough. By investigation, Renalima police there's not enough either. So Renalima UDM, if Rinka Muso, why let's say maybe Rinkle Free State, safety you are giving. Why get corruption this South Africa always does the increase? Ma police ba bereka bali wani felanje. Bagaswara mutu kantle manana di drugs. Bagayenka church because bonabo corrupt.
But what makes them
And
corrupt?
the number two, it's only by 2 or 3 peoples. 1, Ibema police, 2, Ibe law enforcement, 3, Ibema soli. That the country will have a discipline.
But
And then, Hakitu Amona Kibado Usuafonia how? I will have a fear. Because my police about care about heart. About hadik.
shut up.
And that will have a discipline. You can't go to Lesotho to steal Lesotho. Ma police available Lesotho. Kapa Zimbabwe. Ma police about Zimbabwe. And Elima Sole.
Okay, let's bring it back here. What pushes a person to actually be involved in what you call corruption?
Okay. Akibaga corruption kibaga ka English. And the kima isi man. Bana ba chisa di flag. Reduce fela. Jakisa irada holo. Bubodu. Uyeza ala. Ribuza ntorna risiba rabubodu wana uti. Let's the distance. Renality fled. More plus 7 days. Voka zendele. In 11 years. In Algeria they got fled say.
More than 12 years.
More than 12 years. Chel theater is like Iman.
But,
Chel theater is like.
but
Number 2. Renali yena ibiza working neriko. Bana ba hlabi yamani babula yiwamani. Ki yamani, ki iniye. Ibizwa.
it's crime.
It's
Murder.
So how when our kono padala bana skolo university basugulo kera chilti yabona ya university ya what do you call it?
NSFAS.
Ibizwa.
Rejection.
There's a rejection. I see corruption into it. How come like badumnianda dona chelet? If it's a monda dona itle moyena.
But my man,
Asibubudu. Hakuna bubudu monakari.
I hear what you're saying, but the question is, you must remember, I'm asking as a voter, and I want to know from you as a UDM, you're saying to me corruption is the biggest problem that you're going to eradicate. Ke batla o ntlhalosetse, how are you going to do that? And what is corruption? Because right now, to somebody who's sitting there, because we don't have harina spane, like you mentioned, harina dijo, ke a go phanda.
Okay.
Others ha ke gole sharp. Ke a phanda.
Rona for destroy this corruption kitaba ya pili. Yana ke bada gubulele spiri he. Ona ke anyulwa yana. Renali maspala kere. Renali sentle ka kere. Man sentle ke batho ba batho. Roba kono bereke na di machine man. Machine se dena fudu amun lona jwala isa bereke. Why Rona ba UDM aring batu ba especially more those in municipality and the central reira ba permanent not tender maspala for scontiri is desa kolo ya haidulena ishapaga kapa tuolu obani ki di tender risale ai rebatu ena libatu ba sabereke ai rebatu permanent those people to work in municipality ba bereka na discontiri buildings bati There's no job.
So the tender system is another problem.
The tender system is another problem because I couldn't believe that it's 7 years to 8 years those flats. Yeah, it's a community. Eh?
But
community.
But Mamela Mkhotsi, I hear what you're saying, but you mentioned Pataho, the tender system is a problem. But you must remember, Happy, the tender system is a business model that assisting people.
Okay.
So if you're saying you're gonna end the tender system due to the fact that it causes corruption, then you're gonna create more problems in terms of unemployment.
Yes, I mean time 30 years.
30
years. 30 years. Not 3 years. 30 years. The tender deleting. Again. But we still collapse. Couldn't collapse on Ajwari. Risamagama Ngwele no.
Okay.
And they don't tell you Rimangwele and FL.
Okay. You're saying the tender system, the issue of corruption, and in ending the tender system, you will be fighting corruption. Razem Zanzi, you spoke about leadership, the importance of having good leadership, and that's your key element. How are you going to change that? Because you're coming in as a new political party. I don't know who's your leader. I don't know who's part and parcel. Why should I trust you with my vote?
As I said to you, when we making our manifesto, relay in different towns and ask people, our leader Kiswangeza Zibi.
For the Free State?
Or for the Free State?
Yeah. Let's keep it Free State,
Free State.
Because we're talking Free State now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Our provincial convener Kinom Samachase.
Okay.
Yeah. Our manifesto is launched from the interaction in Nzahala at different communities, trying to understand what is their challenge. Leadership. My colleague speaks about corruption. The problem is not a tender system, so to say, that is creating a problem.
Okay.
But the problem is leadership that is placed in those areas in terms of management. An example, cadre deployment is a serious problem because are we deploying people that are competent and capable in those positions so that they can execute the tasks so that a program or project established can be implemented accordingly? He mentioned in 20 hostels and say how we in 12 years about 270 million have already been squandered. It's not that the construction company cannot do that.
Sharp. So now you touched on cadre deployment, which is, we know it's from the ANC, the cadre deployment. Now, when you come into power, you're going to come with your own people, right?
We would appoint people that are competent, skillful.
From where?
It doesn't have to be from Rise Mzansi.
Okay.
Remember, in South Africa, we have resources, we have people that are competent, that are highly qualified to do the job. It doesn't have to be from Rise Mzansi. If
So-
a person qualifies and has the skills to implement the project, to transform the lives of people, give those people, not because they are from Mzansi, but because they are capable and they've got skills.
So what you're telling me is that should Rise Mzansi actually win the election for the Free State and actually be in governance, you can deploy somebody else apart from your leader, who's the provincial leader.
Remember, our leader is a political leader. But for implementation of program, we need officials that are competent. So yes, we would look at people that are competent. Political leaders, when you look at a manifesto, it's also speaking about the influence. Political leaders politicians should not have a direct influence on the service delivery. They are there just to see that things are done according to the law.
But politicians are being deployed to actually govern also.
As what?
As
the
leaders.
Officials, not as officials.
No, I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
But I'm coming to that part. I get what you said. The most important thing that you're focusing on is the leadership. So that's why I'm asking you, from me as a leader, for me to vote for you, I'm asking because there's been a problem where other people, other political parties, including the community, are saying the ANC is deploying cadres into key positions. And I'm asking you, Jorge, should you win, how are you going to elect the premier of the Free State?
We would use, obviously, we would use the systems that every organization use. The leaders within the province should be one that led. But here's my point. My point is that it's not the politicians that drives the implementation of services within.
That is true.
Yes. So politicians are there to ensure that things are done according to the law. So if we wins, obviously one of the key things that we would do audit. We've got so many programs that are not implemented accordingly. I mean, day before yesterday, I was listening that they said it's about.
So what would qualify as a good leader that can actually be the person to run this province? What must a leader have from, especially according to Rise Mzansi, for you to be, let's say tomorrow I say I vote for you and I want to be the premier of the Free State. What must I have in order for me to reach that potential point that you're raising? Because I would want to apply too.
Accountability. You must be accountable to the people. Your any programs that you comes up that you are implementing has to relate to the needs of the people.
It's easy for me to say I can account because you can sign a contract and say, I solemnly swear as Tebogo Kotsi that I'll account for each and every single thing that I do. But I'm asking you to say, what qualities must I reach must I have in order for me to be that person to say I can be the premier of that province?
Integrity. It's one of the oath of Rise Mzansi. You must, the community must be able to relate to you because of what you give to the community, not just because you are in a political position.
Okay.
Sorry. Things. How do I phrase it? I'm trying to say your leadership must be connected to the people. That those people, if they elect you, they could be in a position to say that that person is there representing our aspiration, not the political position of the organization.
Okay. I'll come back to you. Mr. Pugh, ANC. You spoke a lot because of your 30 years experience. And I'm going to ask you one question. Your highlights for the past 30 years, you mentioned the achievements, what the ANC aspires, especially when it comes to basic service delivery, youth and women. But there's been a major challenge, especially when it comes to unemployment in this country, in this province. I was looking at the stats today. Young people in this province are not happy. They are not employed, and they complain about lack of opportunities. What has been the most challenging things, especially for us in the Free State, for you as the ANC?
No,
and
thanks.
why can't you create employment for these young people?
Thanks. Let's start here. Maybe re qale mona ke hlalosanyane le ka Sesotho le nna bana ke go thwe a bua Sekgowa ka Manyesemane.
You can mix, gentlemen.
Ba tsere bonahala go batho. Okay. Re qale mona na. Free State is a rural province, but it also is the agricultural hub the country. Contribution to the country's GDP in terms of agriculture from the Free State is quite significant. It does hover around the region of above 10% when it comes to agricultural produce. So it therefore means that the profile ya batho ba rona in the main majority would be batho ba tswang from small towns. And in these small towns, these are centers of agro-processing.
Okay.
Right. So through the course of time, commercial agricultural sector largely in a dominate white farmers. Right. You didn't have a lot of commercial farmers who are black. Now, as time went on, most of these farmers that were predominantly white began to age. And we were not beginning to reproduce a lot of black commercial farmers to sustain and to also keep the jobs, right? So this is something that our provincial government here, under the under the African National Congress has been looking at specifically to say, let's go back and look at reproducing or expanding the profile of commercial farmers, especially those who are black who are skilled. Now that we've offered bursaries, obviously, for those that want to get into the sector. Secondly, we've also provided funding. Let me give an example of this, of what we've done recently, right now. There's a project, a juice manufacturing plant, that has received about 10 million rand in terms of support. You know, it's an investment project to support the commercialization of the sector. I mean, how many black farmers are in the agro-processing producing juices in particular? You know, so these are kind of steps that we're taking. So that's the first one. Yabubedi is that of producing skills. But due to the size of our province, we normally find and the lack of opportunities that are being created, because you know that when we talk about how much we receive in terms of revenue as a province, it is calculated per head or per capita. So because our population numbers are quite low, we don't get as much. But we've invested in human capital. We've invested in people that have gone on to study and acquire services. But unfortunately, due to the competitive nature of job market, some of them are not able to be retained in the Free State.
Can I jump in?
Yes.
You mentioned Patiahore, Free State is still a rural, and we're still talking 30 years. You're referring to it as a rural place. But just yesterday, and you spoke about agriculture, and I'm coming to that part. Just yesterday, we saw at NAMP, which is one of the biggest exhibition for agriculture, which is taking place in the Free State. We saw, I personally saw, Jorge, there is so much wealth within the farming industry.
Indeed.
I saw farmers landing at the plane, private jets. There's a runway that was designed, and farmers came through to actually come and exhibit their products and actually try to buy new products and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But my question still comes back to one thing, Yahore. We speak about opportunities that the ANC has created, but our young black brothers and sisters are not being, we can't see them. We can't see those opportunities that have been created. The only thing that we see is white farmers landing with their planes, going to Nampu, actually exhibiting their planes and all that. Why is it that 30 years down the line, we still refer to the Free State as a rural, and we still cannot open up opportunities for young people?
The Free State does have parts of it which are industrialized.
Okay.
If you look at the Northern Free State, it's quite industrialized. You come to your Sasolburg and your Metsimaholo region, the petrochemicals industry. You go to the goldfields part where there's mining, you know what I'm saying? But on the eastern part, where there's large tracts of land, there's a lot of agricultural activity that is happening there, and there's small towns. And that is what I'm qualifying as rural. Not to say that it is entirely rural, but in majority, there's a lot of agricultural productivity in small towns, you know, where a lot of the commercial farmers there are white, and where you find that most of the time, agriculture does not become attractive. And this is to address your question about why are there none of our black brothers and sisters that are finding agriculture as attractive. You would know that there's a perception about agriculture.
Okay.
It is not a desirable career. Everybody wants to move towards studying to become a lawyer or a doctor. Yet, we also have other sectors where the youth, and in particular black people, can be able to thrive. I mean, for example, let's look at the artisanal skills sector. You know, plumbing. How many companies actually are black-owned that are in majority that are in the business of plumbing? Air conditioning. I can bet you here that the people that are going to come repair this air conditioner will not be a black-owned company. Now, these are some of the
because
things.
there's lack of access to market.
Lack of access to market, but also it's a skilling issue as well.
But have
Now,
you ever tried to actually create actually market for young people? And
indeed, that is being done. That is why there's a very strong drive to ensure that people go out and apply at Muteo TVET College
okay.
for artisanal skills. That's why there's a very strong drive from various departments such as the Department of Public Works to attract young people into artisanal skills or artisanal related careers.
Let me
so there's that drive. You would know that in the heyday of our democracy, from 1994 up until your 2000s and your mid 2000s, it was a big thing to be an accountant. It was a big thing to be a doctor. Hey, the first doctor, first this. Going to university and getting a degree was a big thing. And there was the massification of higher education. When you look at the kind of skills it is skills largely administrative, key profession. But we found that we suffered when it came to your built environment.
But
There were, you know,
here's another challenge. We still got, it was a big thing for you to have a master's degree to go to universities, but you still find young people with master's degrees in universities sitting, mostrating, holding boards and saying, but there's no opportunities.
the question is, when you decide to study a particular qualification, utlamu check or na, does the economy of the job market have space for you? For example, does our job market currently, like the market in the Free State, because we are being specific,
But we're supposed
Is
to
there-
create that space.
no, government does stimulate it, but remember it's within certain constraints. Like I explained to you, Richelta Free State, because we've got smaller numbers.
Okay.
You look at the Maspal, if you take municipalities, let's take for example Mohokar, you compare Mohokar to Machabe, the numbers there are different. So equitable share Kenamo, it's different. So where they allocate the money and the kind of projects that they can roll out is different. Salary scales for officials are different. But within what we have, let's look at what has been done.
I'm
And
gonna
I
come
think that the ANC has done quite a lot here in the Free
I'm
State.
gonna come
and it
back
still
to you.
can
I'm
do
gonna come
more.
back to you, ne?
Thanks.
Because of Kishebile le nako ya Mpalam, and I wanna come to service delivery. And the deputy touched on issue ya service delivery, and I know Forum for Service Delivery is your key. You mentioned part A1. Holona, your key point is to focus on the service that is being delivered and poverty that needs to be eradicated, of which poverty still plays a major role in our country, especially now in our province, that we still refer to the Free State as rural. And you still go to Gauteng and you see Sandton is still separating, Alex is still next to Sandton. You have a Bentley store, sorry for mentioning brands, you have a very expensive car brand, next door, Kamo, you've got a shack. How are you going to make sure that our people get their services and it's basic services that they're going to get, and how are you going to eradicate that poverty?
You know, we've got factories. in the
Which
Free State.
factories?
Kwakwa, we have, I'm sure there are about 36 factories.
And what are they manufacturing?
And currently, as we speak, the ruling party, the government, has made a deliberate move to close down those factories because they did not shift the economic participation or access to our people. And those factories have created a number of jobs.
Are we referring to factories or just empty buildings?
Yeah, those empty buildings, as a service forum for service delivery, we want them to open up, and we're going to. Open
Now you're
them
coming
up.
to my part. I want you to
And-
tell me, how are you going to open up those factories?
All right, we do have business people here, business people, our people, not the foreign nationals, our people, who are eager and willing to open those factories. I'll make an example of the ones next to around the N8 road, Bloemdastrie. They belong to the municipality. Municipality refuses to give them to our people. But
Why?
come foreign nationals, they will give them. You know, we have a red carpet. Our people will be needed to produce this and that, that and that. We do have people who can open those factories.
There's been
And-
excuse to jump in, there's been an issue, especially when it comes to, let's refer to our people, black people. Ya gore, we lack the skills to actually sustain businesses. How are you going to make sure that the people get to sustain those businesses? Given track record, there's people that have received funding and they've received infrastructures, animals, but today you go to the businesses are non-existent because
Yeah.
there's lack of access to market.
Yeah, on an issue of skills, ne? You cannot close down, shut down the training centers and think people will get necessary skills that will sustain them, that will keep them to can produce and do whatever that they did before. You know, we did have a training center in Bloemfontein, Botshabelo, all over. Where they are now, they've closed down. Why? Because people, this thing of sitters, yes, it's a good thing to have these sitters, 21 sitters in the country, but they are not effective. They are not doing impact at our community level. If the training centers were there, we'll see in number of, every year we'll see the graduates from those centers. And those people, what they will be doing? Some of them will be self-employed, some of them will be able to be employable. Because they will have skills. Therefore, there will be no need for experiential training because they will be trained at a training center.
But here's my question. Ne? I'm unemployed. I live in Bloemfontein. And I have 4 political parties in front of me, and I need to choose one. You're telling me about empty buildings that you're going to convert and open up and create employment, but you're not giving me a tangible answer. How are you going to do that? I can look at this example with me. If I were to run a party and say to the people out there, vote for me based on the fact that I'm going to create employment for you. This is how I'm going to create employment. I'm going to go and partner with company 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's a piece of land called Tabancho. I'm going to open up a theme park that's going to create 6,000 jobs for you. That's going to create 12,000 permanent. And this is the partnership that I've actually drafted. This is what the voter wants to hear.
Okay,
because
that's what I'm saying.
Promises have been made by political parties for the past 30 years.
Right.
There's new political parties that are coming in that are speaking of different solutions. You must remember, now as me as a voter, you are bargaining for my vote, and I'm going to depend on you for the next coming 5 years to change my life and make it better. So how are you going to do that?
Yes, that's our program. That's what we're going to do. You know, when I'm talking about the factories, we do have a plan on how.
I want to know that plan.
Okay, is that we're going to create a conducive environment for investors. We're not going to allow a counterfeit product to erode our economy, because you cannot run a factory whereas there's another factory out there that is running illicit products, fake products. You know, that is going to tamper with your market. That is going to make sure that you retrench people and all that. So that's where we're coming in. We're going to create a conducive environment for investors. Not these people who are coming from other foreign nationals, who came here to open shops and saloons and all that. They are not investors. I mean investors, people who can open factories. And by indicating that the training centers are needed, is so that when a person wants to run or open a hair salon business, that person got a skill in order to can do better job and all that. Part of the training should be their business management, their financial management, their marketing, and so on. So those are the doable things that we are talking about. And in order to make sure that our people are getting into employment, I can tell you right now, sitting here, our government is understaffed in various departments. Municipality, Mangaung Metro, we are below Buffalo City Municipality, because with about 3,000 personnel that the metro needs. So they cannot employ our people. And when you don't have manpower, when you don't have personnel to do the job, you go into outsource.
Why are they not employing people?
They cannot employ people. They've got ghost workers who are getting paid for doing nothing. So those are the things that they are protecting. I'm
going to come back to the issues of employment and issues that you guys have touched on. And I'm going to take a quick commercial break for us to get some water. It's about to get heated. And let's turn up the stove a bit, because, hey, like I say, my ex has to play a role. 5 years is a very long time. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's take a quick break and we'll be back. And we are back. The road to election. You know, when you are taking a journey, you have to be prepared. O tshwanetse o tshware mofago wa gago, o tshware metsi, o tshware snack, o tsamaye o betse bo di-refreshment mo tseleng. So the main question still remains: how, when, and what are you going to deliver for me? That's the biggest question, gentlemen, that I'm asking today. Because me as a voter, I want to know. I don't want to know promises. Like the ANC has been making promises for years. You know, UDM, you've 27 years. You've been making promises for 27 years. We've got new kids on the block. No, they're making promises. I don't want to hear promises. I want to know how, where, and what. And I'm going to come to Rise Mzansi. You're the new kid on the block. We've heard stories. I've been listening to you. I've been paying attention to you. And through your national leader, you've mentioned quite issues. You want to bring solutions into problems that are currently happening. What is the one issue right now in the Free State that's keeping you up at night? Change.
Hunger.
Hunger. And relapile. Oh, relapile.
The whole mess that you see, it's because people are hungry.
But you have 3 million people in the Free State, and official of that 3 million people, it's only a small fraction that have got access to finance, food, and what. How are you going to make sure that Lena I go to bed full?
There are many strategies that will be implemented.
Mm.
One of them is to look at how do we revamp the economy of the province. I mean, the other day we went to Fontaine and there was a lady who was selling the soft goods. She was from Botshabelo, and we asked her how did she get there, and she was explaining that she had to take 2 taxis from Botshabelo to Bloemfontein and then hike from Bloemfontein to Fontaine.
Mm.
What is the problem? We used to have a railway line that was used by people and was accessible and people could move around. If people can move around, it generate work, because it's easy for you to move from one place to another and even access things at ease. So immediately when you started looking at that, creating an environment that says that let there be infrastructure that is operational, not depending on taxis. When taxis are private sectors, but government systems, as I said, the railway line, trains that were moving around. I mean, when I grew up, people used to go and buy goods in Johannesburg and they will sell it in Free State. That was creating economy. That was making family not to have hunger.
But the lack of the railway line, like you mentioned, we used to have railway line, actually created an opportunity for the taxi industry and basically the transporting industry, whereby you saw a growth, especially now in Mangaung. You're sitting with more than 4,000 taxis, and that's what, more 4,000 jobs that have been created in the past 30 years.
Mm-hmm. But it's still private.
No, now, it's still private.
Yeah.
It shows how entrepreneurship is actually being stimulated.
Yeah, no, but do you, now look at our roads. Because of the very same thing that the railway line has been minimized, the use of railway lines. Trucks are utilizing I mean, I'm staying at the plots. You don't want to go there because the road is not usable.
But don't you think that's another opportunity for other entrepreneurs to actually jump into that space?
No, but we want a sustainable work that will ensure that people get food at the end of the day.
Mm.
So
yeah, Askis, I'm gonna throw you. You spoke about food, you spoke about transport. Now when you speak about time, the railway, we know it's delayed. That's another thing. Meaning access to services, access to food, access to deliveries might be delayed. How are you gonna bridge that?
No. It doesn't have to be delayed. It's how it was structured. But the latest development, the latest technology will not make it to be delayed. Remember, it was delayed because the system then allowed it to take, I mean, it used to take about 2 days from Johannesburg to Cape Town. It doesn't have to be like, that's why we've got how trains, things that can move within short space of time.
So we look into the newer models.
Newer models that would make things, getting the goods out of neighboring countries into South Africa.
But who's going to create those trains?
No, we are not creating. Remember, the system is there, but the management of the system is the problem. That's why Rise Mzansi always says, new leadership.
But you're sitting with me, and I'm sitting here, and I'm hungry. Now I want change, not tomorrow, today.
Okay.
Which is something that most political parties, including the ANC, is failing to do. Promises are made to say, this is what we're going to deliver. The minute the person comes into offices, now they start to lead excuses. And I can say that due to the fact that even other political parties that are not here to speak for themselves, they're experiencing the same things, because you come into office, then you find challenges that are beyond your control.
The problem is, are you giving us a feedback to say, guys, when I get into this office, I find A, B, C, D, E, F, and these are the things that I need to do. Unfortunately, with the present government, it does not account. We just see changes happening without literally involving people. I mean, as I said, why not? I mean, I've been in Bloemfontein for a couple of years. I've never had to see one of the MEC coming to the ward of us and explaining things at the ward, except when they would be calling meetings and then in the hall and involving at that level where they need to be accounted for. We don't. I'm staying at the plot. I'm staying at the plot. For this past 6 years, our ward councillor have changed from, I don't know, now it's Mema Mkhetli. We've never had a meeting at the plots whereby they were telling us as the residents of the plot to say, so that is the problem. It's that, yes, when we get into the office, you find challenges there. How are you dealing with it? How do you make people to be part of the solution rather than imposing the solution that you think will befit the people? That's the challenge.
Okay. ANC, Mr. Pugh. I don't want to hear about what ANC has done. I want to hear what ANC is going to do for me if I have to vote for the ANC. I'm hearing what Rise Mzansi is saying. Rise Mzansi is giving me solutions in terms of this is what they want to do. But now I have a problem now. I've been under your leadership for the past 30 years. You've made promises to me. And I feel most of the promises haven't been delivered. Now, why should I vote for you again?
Well, it's not to say that promises have not been delivered. Let's just say that we've delivered, but we've not met certain targets because of quite a number of things. We all know that it's no secret that the South African population, after every 10 years, continues to grow. You mentioned something about this population numbers from 94, which was around about 44 million. And now we're sitting close to 80 million. The South Africans.
Yeah, I know that.
And there's another 10 to 15 million citizens that are unaccounted for, whom are said to be people who come from outside the borders of South Africa. So we have a growing population, understandably. We also have to manage the immigration problem. But I won't get into that. I just wanted to point out. Number one, we've got 6 key priority areas in our manifesto. Number one is our jobs plan. To make South Africans work. Now, here's your question. How are we going to make South Africans work? Number one, industrialization. We note that there's factories that used to operate. What did those factories do? They used to produce. What is it that they produce? They produce quite a number of things. Most of these factories, you'd remember, like I mentioned, historically, I think the example about 𝐏𝐻𝐋𝐈𝐓𝐈𝐂𝐀𝐋 was made. Though there were factories that were there, they were operated by the Chinese. And a bulk of what was produced there was exported to markets outside of 𝐏𝐻𝐋𝐈𝐓𝐈𝐂𝐀𝐋. Though there were jobs that were there, but it was not jobs that were high-skilled jobs. And you look at the salaries that were being paid, although there were salaries that were being paid, but the kind of products that were being produced were not being exported for markets so that we could be able to leverage from them. Now, when you re-industrialize, you look at the new ways of doing things. For example, there would be factories in Botshabelo, for example, where we've invited some Chinese investors to come in. The kind of model that you would have when you re-industrialize is such that you say, for everything that is produced here, 50% must be South African, and I'm making an example. 50% must be for the area, and then the other remaining portion can go outside, which was not the case previously, you know. So, and that is what also led to our government, the ANC-led government, to say that those factories must be closed down because workers were being exploited there. You know, there was nothing that they were gaining from there. For example, in mining areas, where I'm from, in Machabeng, Velkom, there's what is called social labor plans.
Okay.
A mining company cannot mine in an area and not invest in that area.
But they're not investing.
See, the implementation of social labor plan also on its own requires certain level of regulation. If you check the mining licenses, a mining license cannot be awarded without compliance with the social labor plan. We can go and check in all these mining areas. You can go to Sasol as well, in Sasolburg. Look at the CSI projects that Sasol has for the area of Sasol. Look at the employment opportunities that it creates. But we're not saying that we must depend on the private sector alone when we industrialize. The state also has a role to play. So it's a joint effort. The state must create an environment, but it must also play a role in terms of owning certain state-owned companies so that it is able to collaborate. And that is what the approach is going to be. Now, the second one, let me not spend a lot of time on industrialization, but I'll just touch on those ones. The second one of making South Africa work is about infrastructure rollout. The reason why we want to emphasize infrastructure is that it's a labor-intensive way. We're creating labor-intensive jobs. When you decide to build a road, you know, it's labor-intensive. You have to hire people. Although nowadays people use various machines, but still those machines would need to be operated by people who are skilled. They are programmed, but they need to be guided. But infrastructure rollout, and especially social infrastructure, is one way we can be able to create jobs. Now, I had issues around tendering system. Indeed, there have been some issues around tendering system, whereas the kind of service providers that are appointed are not people who are fit for purpose. At certain points in time, they don't deliver projects according to how they should be. There's been a suggestion that the state must begin to also play a role in rolling out infrastructure projects, which is part of the plan that we have. And we want to create 2.5 million jobs across the country. In the province, obviously, there'll be a share of close to 1 million jobs that are being created currently. Now, the last one is that of creating or tackling the cost of living, right? Here's how the ANC is going to intervene. Your basic services, your grants that are being offered to our population. But it's not to say that a population must be dependent on grants. But what we are saying is that the management of the cost of living starts from your value-added tax, right? It starts from regulating the pricing of goods that are essential for our people. For example, if you are taking sanitary pads for women, or for females, or for the girl child, we are saying that such goods that are essential must be at zero VAT. We are saying that if you are going to be selling goods that are essential, like maize meal.
You failed to give us zero VAT for the past 30 years.
No. Currently, there's sanitary pads that are being offered by the state, which are for free, but there's a process of regulating the space.
I'm gonna have to jump in because of time is also, and I wanna give the other gentleman an opportunity. But I wanna throw a curveball. I hear what you say, but here's the thing: you've got a town called Tabanchu. 1994, when ANC took over, there was a beautiful complex there that was actually built by the previous Puputatswana. 30 years till today, nothing has been done with that complex.
Are you referring to Ratlo complex?
To Ratlo.
There's government offices there.
But now, that was a commercial property.
It's currently being run by the Free State Development Corporation. Government departments pay rent to the Free State Development Corporation. That same revenue that Free State Development Corporation gets, it also funds SMMEs, emerging SMMEs.
But I was there, but that property is still empty.
Look, there's tenants, Remember that there's
tenants,
contracts. There's
but
contracts.
now there's lack of jobs.
No,
We
it's
raised
not a
issues
question
out-
of a lack of jobs. It's the kind of jobs that we're bringing in. Now, Ratlo Complex, you can't take a factory to Ratlo Complex. It is where services are being offered. So it means that the majority of people that will be employed, that will have jobs, there are people who have qualifications in the
But
services
it's
sector.
not stimulating the economy of Ratlo.
But it's offering jobs. If you want to stimulate the economy of Ratlo, you must come up with a different kind of business venture.
Because
there's a
now-
filling station right next to it, right?
There's a filling station.
Yes. How many people has it employed?
6.
Exactly. It's a private initiative.
But you're sitting
right?
with a property that can actually employ more than 2,000 people. If you can get an anchor tenant into that property and actually open up what it was and actually utilize it for what it was designed for, imagine the amount of employment that can create for people of Tabanchu.
Look, if there's potential for that, let
There
it be
is.
exploited. Let it be exploited.
There's private companies that have been approaching government to actually say, open up those doors so that we can actually utilize that. But it's not happening.
To do what? To open up a mall.
To open up a mall
That
and
is going to
create
kill
employment.
No, you're not necessarily creating employment by opening. Yes, you are creating employment, but it's not going to create mass employment. That's the thing.
How so?
Remember, we're talking about retail sector here, right?
Yes.
Retail sector on its own is going to be faced by the very same challenge. It's a tenant. It has to pay rent. It has to sell goods. And
True.
at some point when it does not meet those margins, what
But
does it do? It retrenches. So it's not a sustainable job. You're not skilling anybody with
But
that.
the people of Tabanchu have to travel all the way to Bloemfontein to actually get certain products that you could actually open up the market for and create employment for them
You-
and actually keep them in Tabanchu.
You spoke about the taxi industry. Now, when you create a shopping center that's very close to there, you're killing the local taxi industry.
Petrol is too
Number
high.
one. Number two, the rates that you're going to charge as well are quite different from there. We can have a long argument about this. But
And I wanna bring in the, UDM on it.
Development to tla structure, development to a plan. It does not mean that just because on a Ratlo complex, ne, there's a need for retail there and there.
But we've been
What if-
planning for 30 years.
No, you must analyze the area you are bringing a shop to or a mall to, whether there will be people who are going to buy there and at what cost. Because if the rental is high there and people have to travel long distances to go there, it also influences what you're going to charge. And also, government services are necessary. They are essential. Our people need to go and access home affairs. You
It's
need to bring an office close there.
But the
Our
rest of
people
the,
need to access their grants and they need to update their data. You need to put SASA there.
here's the
So
thing.
government services should not be in Bloemfontein.
The
You must
people-
bring government services closer to the people.
the people that are working in that complex, in those government departments, most of them reside here in Bloemfontein. Majority of them. They travel to Tabanchu. You're not creating employment for people in Tabanchu.
Remember, services, you need to be skilled.
They have metric. There's people that are sitting in Tabanchu with master's degrees and metric that can be employed there.
No, you can't say that a lot of people, you can't say there's more than 5,000 people staying there with the masters.
I'll get you the numbers.
It can't be. It can't be. I
Okay.
disagree with that.
I want to bring in
I
UDM.
disagree with that. There's not a massive number. I
I want to bring
disagree.
in UDM. What's keeping you up at night? Let's be brief. Ke a tseba ba batla ho ntwantsha, but what's keeping you up at night? And what are you going to do? You spoke about corruption, I know. Why should I vote for you?
Alala.
Helele.
Huh? Okay. Nna ke le UDM.
O be Mike gaufi he.
Oh, nna ya no le. Okay. Rona ma UDM. Le wena o le UDM. Eh, le wena o le UDM.
Why ke tshwantse go votela?
O santse o votela UDM ya hore re kgone ho tšhintšha. Ke utlwa ka mona ya hore motho a sa ka bula mosebetsi site-eng ele ka lebaka la di-taxi. Ha kuna nto e yalo. And then ke buile nto ya pele ya hore di sila. Ka bua ka re ina di-building tsa bana mona tsa government ya hore bana ba NSFAS ha ba ifumane. Ke buile ka Nerico ka utla hore ha o touch, it is fine. So bolela ka hore na wa sanu votele nna ivele because corruption na re batle bobodu ona re batle re khatetse. And the rona ma UDM ha re promise rona re promise ya rona re you make a promise of 5 years, that is a lie. We never promise anyone. We do. We
Okay.
take action.
You do.
Raetsa.
Onale more than
Renale
27 years in government, in key positions. What have you done? You can ANC can show me what they have done and where they have failed.
anna ke le nna o mboza gore nna ke dirile eng.
Eh.
Ke ne ke le mo government-eng na. I'm the head. A ke bona ba le mo yense ba ntshitse nna. Ba re nna ke ba bolela gore lona ke pate magodu lona ba re wena tswa. But when the time nna ke ne ke le teng da, everything was good and peaceful and beautiful. Even le batho bana ba bona gore ya mara mona wa berekiwa mona. So umbulela ya uri nna ke dirile within 5 years ke dirile bobodo bona ba bona bana wa etsa mon parliamentary ba bangata ke ba ntshitse wa pili wona wamo wa IC ke mane mo ntshitse wa bobele ngabule bero ke mane ngabule wa sengqobule ke mana mo ntshitse ke rona ma yefe ma UDM.
Oh, UDM. Oh.
UDM. Sorry.
Slip of the
Ya
tongue.
boraro. Sifasi na hano padala. Raba promisa urenda to isa koto. Padala bana. Kiruna ma UDM.
Okay.
And the you know na jwali kibona ka na lineri komona. Pasop. Hari promise raya. Hari editi toy. Raulata.
So there's a strategy when I want.
Ki ailata.
O tshwana le first online and ilwantsha sentle ke go theola motlakase. Yes.
Yes, because if you bona unto
And le gona re grade.
yeah, ha go bolela gore ntwe na ke batla, which means I don't want it. So
Okay.
se kwa mpotsa rona ke yetse ntwe ena, we wena o ibatla.
Sa maike.
No.
So o tlo ntwanela to make sure gore
nna
I
ke
have
tla
a-
o lwanela.
Eh.
Nna ke tla o lwanela. And ke startile even I see no. Ha le ke startile. Se dona mpolela ka rona ne ke bula di what rena ke startile. Rena le machine di ruga mona Bloemfontein.
Ke ko.
More than 25 machines rena le tsona mona Bloemfontein. Di temo ba ruga, ha bo mme ba ruga no. Mfeke bona o botse mo phone ya ka.
So ha ba roka,
Bate.
ha ba roka.
So if Renali no Belfontaine is a Belfontaine. Yeah. Ba busy no project that destina. Haribu itata. Raye, I promise.
Why it?
The RDP sena, dina la modern yes you also the RDP. Ina the foundation dile temo location dina lead foundation fela kuna the RDP.
Okay, mare-
Raetsa. Na go ya runa ri inka muso raetsa. We are not only asking said we're going to make it. Arita ruga, arita no amazing. No, we make it.
But how roka o roka kai?
Ki ruga kai?
Eh.
Bate office ni yaka. Baba ngwe bate phase 7. Ba ruga. E fulo ba project we ba rugele nice.
How fetsa o roka o di rekisa kae ditso?
Alala, that is a very good question. Bloemfontein ra regisa, Tabancho ra regisa, Joburg ra regisa. How the project here? So, and I really fella o reke ma UDM fella. Malima.
How many jobs have you created?
For so far akiso inki mo aka kero abona akiso inki that level. Obo. So naturally, kinala more than 4. And the kinali batho ba ngata ba bereka no. No, is I speak.
O na le more than 4, but o na le batho ba bangata ba bereka. Ke batla go votela. I want to vote for you.
Okay.
Because o mplela ka gore
How-
ke tlo kgona
One,
go roka nna.
ya bobedi ha se o roka fela ya bobedi ke whether o etsa maplanga kapa o lokisa dikoloi tlo kapa wa lima tlo o berekeng rona ra o fanda ha re bo re tla etsa no ha re re o mo fanda ona because wona ke ramana mane no a ke re mane nka ena because ke ndade mulu bane mane ra o fanda we know it doesn't know you.
So these
Ra o
are
fanda.
things that you have done in the past.
Yes, until you know. And they're going to be more worse.
I don't hopola go botsitse what have you done o bore wa mpotsa what have I done. Ma ke bo okay.
Wabo? Either there is a more. Fita mona. Ene nyanyana ke flower ke. Votela UDM. Number 3, re buela ka safety. Akere? Ke ne ke bua ka ya hore.
Ya wena o ka ntwanela she. Ja dumela. Safety go ba ka pele.
Yeah.
So you say your
Ya
minister
boraro.
or premier a tlhoke di bodyguard.
Wena And the premier abone ke bone 3 times as a mali one as na the bodyguard.
Ke bua ka wena gore ha o
I'm not
fetsa
going
ho
over the bodyguard. Obani, I cannot enemy. Musi. If you keep a premier, can I enemy? No.
So who's your premier candidate?
Yes, I get Polish batho. Kita get allocation man. Mimi kukuno kita ya. First sixth. Ena lead play get na this call. Ufumana kid get the area test standard akuna the secondary. Kid primary failent. Akuna the clinic. Akuna the police stations. So mana akula man sana inkwe man ili 12 o'clock. You must call taxi. If you mtwa taxi agibat. So service provider deliver aboneka. Mani batu basha. Speedily. Mopel no memona kapa national man. How gulo na jwana fumana bakwezi mamati.
But now it's ke a utlwa ba bua ne. But now my only issue fela ke ntwa gore ke a bona ba batla ke a lwantshiwa ka nako ene tshwantse ke tle kha.
Okay, sharp.
But mamela ha re etse tje. Ke a utlwa ba bua gore why ke tshwantse go vote. Mike batla tla ka mo forum for service delivery. Everybody is touching on issue ya gore service delivery is a problem. Ne? When you raised issue gore focus on like it's on service delivery. Now, what services I already know, ke na le bothata ba di pothole se re itse metsi, ba go mo gona le mathata metsi. Kwa na le mathata mtlakase. Blomfontein re on and off. Re na le problem di pothole, Masipala cannot collect for services, basically basic services ke ntwe thata. So if I vote for you, are you going to make those things happen for me?
Yeah, definitely. You
Because
know,
the Masipala tsa di na le mathata.
yeah, no, the Masipala tsa mona kaofela. Even Human Rights Commission issued a statement that they've investigated the municipalities in the province of Free State. There's none of them that is effective. You know, just a statement. The report is going to come out. Oh my God. But as Forum for Service Delivery, all what we're going to do, we're going to make sure people are getting clean water. And that clean water, water treatment plants needs to be maintained, protected and all that, so that water can be clean.
There's a problem of infrastructure.
We're not going to steal those chemicals that are needed to clean the water. Last time I checked, I mean, Mangaung Metro, there was no chemicals to clean the water, and therefore people has to drink that unclean water.
Mangaung na le bothata ba ntho ba collecting because people don't pay. So how are you gonna fix that part? Because majority of municipalities here in the Free State, they've got a problem of revenue collection.
Yes. We cannot pay for something that we don't get. That's number one. We cannot pay for something that we don't
But
get.
now, if the municipalities
I can
doesn't
tell
have
you now,
funds,
the
how are
rates
they
and
going to
taxes
operate?
here in Mangaung, they are so exorbitant. They are unaffordable. The businesses are going to close down because of the municipalities. I'm not sure what they are thinking, but you cannot because of unclean water, because of there's dirty everywhere, because of there's no stable electricity. The factories, the businesses are closing down. You know, people are getting retrenchments and all that because of poor service delivery. So all what we're going to do, we're going to make sure that we employ competent and people who will be there to do their work. We're going to deal with this issue of ghost workers. People are getting paid for even putting their foot on the at the site of the municipality or wherever. We're going to deal with those such things so that service delivery can be a reality. And also we're going to, there are old people who needs to go for pension, but because of there are people who don't care, and if you've got young energetic people to do the work, then they will do a massive work.
But there's a problem with population growth right now. Now we're going to get into another dawn of democracy. People are going to come into our city because they seek opportunities. You're going to sit with the problem of people. We're seeing majority of people by the squatter camp Mikhukhu. And Ganako, they don't have electricity, they don't have water.
If you are active government and municipality, you're not going to manage that properly.
But problem is now, these people cannot afford to pay municipal services. And you still have to deliver.
Yes. In order to ensure people are paying for the services, provide them with the services. You cannot pay for what you don't get. If now all these businesses around in Bloemfontein, now we can ask them to pay, and we provide them with clean water. We remove this rubbish that is lying around. We maintain electricity. Those people are going to pay.
But now here's the situation. Go phase 8. Let's say I stay phase 8. Hakina mtlakasa, hakina metsi, and you come in and you give me water and you give me electricity, but I cannot afford to pay. Who's gonna pay for me?
We'll create job for you. You going to work and you going to pay.
But my friend is
We're going
staying.
to assist people to open their businesses so that they can have income, so that they can pay for municipal services.
With
But
which
we
money?
definitely cannot ask people to pay if they don't, if they don't work and if they don't get the services.
Then you're
It will
gonna
be
say
unfair.
1.2 million people are not gonna pay for their services.
We're going to create job for that 1.2 million people so they can pay for the services. And
How are you
what
gonna
we-
create those jobs?
That's what we can do. We're going to give people their pension funds. We're going to revisit the business models that were meant to create jobs in our country and in the province. Where the economy relies on the agriculture, we're going to make sure we invest more on agriculture. You cannot do vice versa. We'll industrialize the areas where there is a need for that. So if you have a focus and you've got a program, you do your analysis properly. The reason why we have a problem is because we have incompetent people who are supposed to be looking into this matter. They are not doing that. So now we're coming in with people who will do the work, not our people.
Who are competent?
Who are competent. We have people outside here who are competent. We are not going to have the concubines and your family's friends' jobs and all that stuff. That is happening now. What we're going to do, we're going to make sure that our government is transparent. There's honest people in the offices, including political leaders. We cannot have this population, the vast majority of our population, unemployed and expect a change in our communities. People want to build their own homes, own houses, their designs, not the RDP houses. These 350 things, they're just a waste of money.
Okay.
We can invest that money to open jobs for our people. We can take the money and do a service deliver. The foreigners must leave our country so that our people can get back to even their spaza shops. We used to see families taking their children to school and all that. We're going to close down these drug dealers. And also, we're going to make sure our government is effective. If you are not effective, you don't want to work, you go home, finish and clock.
This is what I'm gonna do because we've come to the end of the show. And gentlemen, I'm gonna bring you back. I know there's so many things that we need to highlight closer to the elections. We're gonna plan it nice and properly, where I'm gonna have all political parties come through, and we're gonna have a nice proper, just to finish the conversation. So in closing, I'm only gonna give you guys 30 seconds to give me few words, not more than anything else, because and I'm gonna start with you, service for delivery. 30 seconds, your closing remarks. Why should people come and actually vote for you without repeating what you said? Give me something new. I wanna hear something new.
We're going to maintain public participation.
Okay.
We're going to make sure we get investors into the country by creating conducive environment for business. And we're going to create safe space for our people, including closing of borders that are now spurious. We're going to make sure our government becomes effective and render services to our people, including their health and the police services.
Okay. Thank you. That the UDM. 30 seconds.
Okay, rona batho ba re votele. Re ta build the school because I want the school adi yo mona na jwale no. The secondary adi ke di primary fela nje. Of mano hote engwe le engwe mano tlo mano ya kwali the secondary adi.
Okay.
And the number 2 the clinic ke matata fela ke disaster. The police station ke disaster adi yo. Ko tla fisa bene kuro tla fisa bene na bene tare a sa le ita ka ambulance. Mano ta shwela mona ka run to ambulance ya. Those is the things that we have to fight for. Those are very important. If man onale mona mulu kotlo man ufonela ambulance. Ha isa le real. Sheba the first remona uroba no roba le tata ka the phone de osane. So those is the issue that we have to rebereke lisonandi. The hospital, the schools,
The ambulance.
yeah, the ambulance sales. And rebereke lisonandi into sonandi sonate.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Nna ke rata ho bua, ke rata ho actor.
30 seconds. Ke a o bona.
Yeah, I like to
Why not build the studio?
Yeah, actor. I'm
Okay.
not just only just to do.
Okay.
I will do this. I
Let
will
me go
do
cut
this.
ahead. Thank you. I'm gonna come to ANC,
Nna ke
Mr.
a
P.
etsa, ntate.
Sharp. ANC, your closing remarks, 30
Thanks.
seconds.
Rona re ba ipiletsa ho baahi ba Free State le ba Afrika Borwa hore re amohela hore we've made some mistakes as the African National Congress. We are working hard to rectify them. The 6 priorities tsa rona are still on track, which is the creation of jobs, industrialization, education, ensuring that there's a safe environment, and lastly, our objective also of creating a stable and a peaceful world, starting with our continent, the countries tse ka hara SADC. We must make sure also to be stable, Zimbabwe and everywhere, to avoid immigration crisis. So the ANC is prepared. We are saying that we must have faith in the ANC. We'll continue to work to make South Africa better, as we have done through 30 years in now.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I'm gonna come to the last one. New kid on the block. You're only a year old. And what can you say? Why should we vote for you in 30 seconds without repeating what you said before?
Keeping people safe and restoring the rule of law. It's one of the key things that we would look into it. We also look into economy and jobs, individual family well-being, and building a healthy career. We would look into the issue of incentivizing the issue of tax for mothers. We'll also look at these policies that says when we are over 35, you cannot get jobs. We'll look into that and say, how do we restructure it? Because we need people, if people feel that they're still capable of working, why not? Also create an environment that says if mothers want to work, the ECD has to be there, and ECD has to be in such a way that it allows women to work and their children, knowing that their children are in a safe and professional environment. Would look into that. We'll also look into things like people living with disabilities. It's a challenge. It's one of the. Also look into that now. How do we restructure it in such a way that those people also feel that they are part of South Africa?
Thank you very much. And ladies and gentlemen, you can come back to me, and I'm here. Thank you very much. And you've heard it. The road to the 29th of May is not an easy one. So you as a voter, Kotlu, it's all up to you. The power is in your hand. All it's going to take is a simple pen and 2 fingers. And all you're going to do is go through your ballot paper. You heard all the 4 gentlemen what they're actually standing for. And at the end of the day, if you don't go out and vote, you must know, hurry. If tomorrow you're not happy, it's because you didn't vote. So you need to do the right thing and choose the right political party that you want. And actually have a conversation with people in your house, with your friends. Encourage your friends to go out and vote. And also, I want to plead with young people, especially young people. Sitting at home and ignoring voting won't actually help. You need to go out and vote for that change that you need. There's this thing, now I'm not going to vote, they're not doing anything for me, nobody's talking to me. Bamel, if you're going to keep quiet and you don't want to do anything, you must know one thing. So ladies and gentlemen, my name is 𝐏𝐻𝐋𝐈𝐓𝐈𝐂𝐀𝐋 and I come to you live on FS Online. Don't forget to subscribe and like and actually follow FS Online. We're based here in Bloemfontein. And I'm telling you, this is a new station. It's going to take you places. And gentlemen, thank you out for reaching out. Tune in next week also. We're going to have other political parties that are going to come through. And I hope closer to the elections, Mr. Becker, we will have all political parties in one house, whereby we're going to ask one question. Why? Why? They must all come prepared for why. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in and actually dedicating your data to us. And we'll see you next time. Thank you. We out.